Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome to our calendar exercise. We'll be building a calendar from a table in Word, and tables can get kind of complicated if you've ever worked with tables in Word before, but this will be kind of a simple introduction to creating a table and being able to add color to it, add borders, shading, and some content. And we're going to be making this from scratch, so you'll only have a sample and you'll follow the instructions and the video if you like. So let's take a look at this calendar right here, and this is on an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and note that you will be creating it on a landscape format, so make sure that that's one of the first things that you'll do. But just to look at this table really quick, it's composed of rows and columns. Now going down in terms of rows are the ones that go down, and the number of rows we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows going down. And then we also have columns going across, and because of their days of the week, you can see there's 7 columns that are going across. Now, what we do have here, this top row is actually a merged, it has 7 cells that are actually merged together so that this July 2013 can actually be centered in all of those. So we can merge some of these cells as we need, but when we start this, it will be composed of 7 rows and 7 columns. And we're going to create this from scratch. Also, there's a little bit of clip art we could just throw in here. You could do it from Word, or you could get something off the internet, which I'll suggest on the instructions. And we'll just try to color it to be kind of red, white, and blue because of the 4th of July. So I'm going to get started now. I'm going to launch Word. Okay, and on your sheet, when you make a new Word document, one of the first things you're going to need to do, other than margins and things like that, is make sure that you change your format under page layout, your orientation. Make sure you go to page layout orientation and make sure you make it landscape. Okay, and that'll make it 11 inches wide by 8.5 inches high. Also, what you're going to need to do here, I just have my cursor clicking on here. Now this will happen for default Word documents, and you can actually see it up here. It's saying 10-point space after. So if you go to your home, even if you go to your home tab and do that, if you go into your paragraph dialog box launcher, a lot of Word documents by default will have this space after set up of 10. Now make sure you just get rid of it. Just click down to 0 and get rid of that. So you don't have that. They put that in there by default to create space between paragraphs, but we don't want that right now. So make sure you also do that. That's on number 2. So I'm going to hit OK. So the first thing you do is make sure you change the orientation to landscape. Make sure you get rid of the space after of 10 point and set it to 0. Also, we're going to set our margins. So I'm going to go to page layout and go back to margins, and it's going to be 1 inch on all sides. So if you have normal here that has 1 inch, you can go to custom and change it, or you could just go to normal and it'll put 1 inch all around. So that's getting started. Now number 4, step 4 on your sheet will actually be creating the table. So we're going to go to our Insert tab, and here you'll see Table right up here. And I'm going to go down to just Insert Table. And it'll give me a little dialog box here of how I want the columns and rows set up. And you remember I said there were 7 columns, which are the days, and there's 7 rows going up and down, which are the weeks and the kind of heading columns for the month and the days that go above it. So I'm going to increase that to 7 as well. And you could just leave it on auto for now. What it'll do is it'll keep all those columns kind of evenly spaced for the time being and kind of fit it within your margins. So I'm going to hit OK. Table, 7 rows, 7 columns. I'll hit OK. And there's our table to start. I'll zoom out a little bit to see the whole table. That's what it looks like to start. And now we're going to adjust some of the sizing on this. Okay, the first thing it says on step 5 is highlight the top 2 rows of the table. And you could go outside of the table over here and highlight those top 2 rows. And then up here you'll see that Table Tools is highlighted. It has Layout, it has Design. You're going to go to Layout, and you're going to go to Table Height, which is right here. Here's your height and width. And what I'm going to do for those particular rows is just take them up to 0.3, and it was 1 click for it to go to 0.3 because it was at 0.19. So I'm just increasing the height of these rows right here. Okay, And then number 6 says while they're still highlighted, you could actually see that they're kind of highlighting towards the top. While they're still highlighted, what you're going to want to do is center align everything vertically and horizontally. And where you're going to change that is over here. There's alignment tabs over here. So this is aligning it horizontally. You can see those little markers kind of go in the middle, and then you're also going to align it vertically, which is clicking this center button, and that'll center all the information in here up and down and right and left. So even if we have days of the week, they'll be centered in their individual cell, and even the July 2013 will be centered all the way across. So we're sending it up and down vertically and right and left, which is horizontally. So that's number 6. So everything should be centered. Okay, now number 7 tells us to merge the top 2 rows. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, make this a little bit larger so everything fits in. Now I'm going to highlight just the top row this time, and I'm going to do something called, on Excel we have merge and center, but what we're going to do here is just merge these cells. They don't have a merge and center button like in Excel, but there's just merge cells. So I'm going to merge these all together. And what it'll do is it'll remove the borders in between them. And then if I click my cursor in here, it'll put it right in the middle because we already had it up here sent to center horizontally. So I'm going to type in July 2013. Okay. Now after I do that, I also want to format it. I'm going to highlight it and make it, I'll go to my Home tab to do this. I'm going to make it Arial Black, which is a real bold, heavy kind of font. I'll make it 18 point. So I'll go up and change this to 18. It looks like it's 11 to start, so I'll make that 18 point. Okay, now that was number 8, just putting in the July 2013. Now we didn't color anything yet. Next we're going to do is highlight the bottom rows because you can see they're way too small. So we're going to highlight these 5 rows below here, and this is basically where the blocks of your calendar are going to be. So I'm going to highlight them in number 9, and I'm going to make them 1 inch high. So again, you go to Table Tools, Layout, and where it says height, and don't worry about the width, just change the height. I'm going to click up, and that's going to be 1 inch, not 0.1, but 1 inch. So be careful when you look at your instructions that you see if there's a point in there. So that makes these, they're each 1 inch tall, and they actually happen to be like 1 1/4 inches, a little bit more wider to fit this whole page right here. So now this is kind of like the skeleton of what our calendar is going to look like. And if you're wondering what these little things are, they're in table cells to indicate where the content is. So if you want to turn that off, you can use your show hide button will turn those off. But I'll leave them on for now. Okay, so moving on to number 10, we're going to highlight all the rows and make the text just like we were. We could have kept it highlighted, but all the rows down here, we're going to make this text that's going to be in here. Right now it's saying Calibri 11. We're going to make it Arial Black as well. And we're going to make all the type inside these rows 12-point Arial Black, so that when we type them, they'll be set up the way we want them to be. So we're doing that ahead of time before we even type in any information. Number 11, we're going to enter the days starting with Sunday and ending with Saturday, just like a calendar. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to type in Sunday. And I'm going to type over here Monday. Okay, and I'll pause here and I'll fill this in, and then we're also going to format those to be 12-point Arial Black as well. Okay, here are the days typed in here, and I'm going to make sure I highlight this and go to my Home tab and make it, that should also be 12-point Arial Black. Okay, and now what we're going to be doing next pretty much is adding the numbers in here. Now this takes a little time, so I won't have you watch me do this, but you're basically going to start here with Monday and add a 1, and then you could hit your tab key and hit 2, 3, and if you don't like seeing these things here, you could turn them off. And I'm going to tab 4, tab 5, etc., and then I'll go to the end of the month, which I think ends on a Wednesday. Okay, I just added all my numbers in here, and by the way, there is a default kind of padding that's in here that keeps the number pushed away from the border a little bit that's in here and away from the top a little bit. So that's by default right now, and that can be changed when we go into table properties. But for right now, that's all our numbers. So this is kind of our wireframe of our calendar. What we're going to do next is add our colors and shading and just make it a little bit nicer. And I'm going to do that on part 2 of the video. So I'm going to stop here.